What's up, guys? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Attachment Confessions. My name is Chelsea, and I am so glad that you decided to tune in today for episode 16. From the moment I discovered attachment science, everything about every relationship I had ever been in finally made sense. And now I'm figuring out what it takes to earn my attachment security and have the best possible relationships from now on. Here on the Attachment Confessions, we'll be diving into all things attachment science while you guys tag along on my attachment healing adventure. My hope is that by bringing attachment science to those of you who have never heard of it before, and by sharing my own story, you'll also be inspired to set out on your own attachment healing journey. Before we get too far in, let's go ahead and quickly take care of some housekeeping items. If you could pretty please take a sec to subscribe to or follow the Attachment Confessions so that you never ever miss when a new episode drops, which BT dubs is every other Wednesday, as well as leave a rating and a review if you are loving what you're hearing. I would appreciate it so much. The more people that can be reached, the more of an impact this podcast can make, which is its entire purpose. Okie dokie, let's get into it, shall we? On our last episode, we said adios to 2025 by exploring some solid dating and relationship resolutions to help set us all up for success going into the new year. Although we're already 2 weeks into 2026, it's never too late to set a good goal or two, especially when it comes to improving our love life. Am I right? Whether you're single and thinking about taking the dating leap of faith this year, or if you're already out there in those streets braving the dating battlefield, or if you're in a committed relationship, our last episode is packed with tons of tangible dating resolutions to level up your love game this year. It has something for everyone, so if you missed it, definitely make sure you go check it out. For today's episode, we're going to chat about something that has been on my heart and mind over the last several months, but especially going into the new year. Resolutions are all about reflecting on the prior year's highlights and successes, but also on our shortcomings and failures, and then putting a plan in place for striving to improve in the areas where we may have missed the mark. According to a recent survey, saving money, exercising more, and getting healthier are Americans' top New Year's resolutions going into 2026. I'm sure those have been the top resolutions for like the past 50 plus years, which I'm definitely not throwing shade at. Those are all areas I'm looking to make strides in this year as well. There are so many different areas that we set goals to accomplish something greater at. But something that really irks me is when I hear someone claim, I am who I am, take it or leave it, in terms of how they show up in their relationships. I've had this said to me by former partners, and I must confess, I know I've thrown out a similar claim or two to my exes as well. As I've gotten older, wiser, and more reflective on how I need to change, though, I'm done with making these type of statements in order to deflect and make excuses for my shortcomings and unfavorable behaviors moving forward. For those of you who aren't strangers to the attachment confessions, you're already aware of my fearful, avoidant, insecure attachment and patterns in my past relationships. But now that I know myself better than I ever have, I know that I'm not doomed to forever repeat my cringeworthy, fearful, avoidant ways. I have the ability to heal my attachment. But the first step in all of this is taking accountability in order to earn my attachment security and show up for the people I love as the best version of Chelsea. Let's face it, we set out to improve in our finances, our health, our faith journeys, our sleep habits, our careers, our studies, our hobbies, our social lives, our self care routines, our parenting, our image on social media. The list seriously goes on and on. Just like Johnny from the fake black and white movie Angels with Filthy Souls, featured in what is arguably the greatest Christmas movie of all time, aka Home Alone, I could go on forever, baby. But when it comes to reflecting on how we show up and behave in our romantic relationships, so often that's met with a total lack of self awareness and unwillingness to change for the better. So that's why today we're discussing taking accountability for our insecure attachment. Because the truth is, when we make claims like, I am who I am. If you don't like it, then you can go screw yourself. Or, well, you must not love me if you don't just accept me the way that I am. You're not only hurting the people around you, you're straight up lying to yourself and going out of your way to make your life unnecessarily miserable. If relationship after relationship ends in ash, maybe it's time to take a good hard look in the mirror to see if your insecure attachment could be the common denominator responsible for what ultimately burns things to the ground. If that's the case, if you often are the common denominator, I have got amazing news for you. You can 100% change for the better. You are not broken. You are not doomed. You just need to swallow your pride, stop making excuses, and realize that you are, in fact, responsible for the health or lack thereof of your relationships. It's no different than any other resolution. You can choose to put mind over matter and grit your way to the finish line of achieving something that can actually benefit your life immensely, or you can do what a lot of us do with our New Year's resolutions and give up 2 weeks into January. It is a choice, though, and the choice truly is yours. This really fires me up if you can't tell, you guys, but don't get me wrong. I say all of this in a tough love kind of way. I too have been that stubborn person in relationships, allowing my fearful avoidance to dictate my emotions and behaviors. So I get it. I'm just passionate about choosing a new, better path for ourselves. And there's no time like the new year to embark on the path to healing. But just like six pack abs, healing your insecure attachment is not for the faint of heart. It takes time, effort, and tons of falling down along the way. What matters, though, is how you choose to get back up and press forward in your healing journey when slip ups happen. It's easy to tell yourself and everyone around you, this is me, take it or leave it. But the pain of being a prisoner to your own insecure attachment is so much harder to bear, especially the longer you go on making excuse after excuse for your bad patterns in relationships. But hold up, Chels. Weren't these behaviors wired into our nervous systems in childhood thanks to the emotional attunement, or lack thereof, of our parents? Why, yes, young grasshopper, they were. I'm so glad you've been listening to the attachment confessions and paying attention each episode. But let's make 2026 the year we stop making excuses for the behaviors that were ingrained in us when we were children. We're big boys and girls now, and big boys and girls take accountability for themselves. We may not have asked to become anxious preoccupieds, dismissive avoidants, or fearful avoidants, but we certainly all have the ability to heal these insecure attachments that were instilled in us. How we were raised matters, but ultimately, it's our responsibility to grow up. Let's take a deeper look at how each insecure attachment has the power to earn their attachment security and make their relationships better than ever from this moment moving forward. We'll start off with our anxious preoccupieds. Our sweet APs that are our ultimate people pleasers and peacemakers. Those don't sound like terrible qualities on the surface, right? What, Chels? Someone who isn't combative, doesn't want to ruffle feathers and start problems, someone who wants to please and take care of their partner, that sounds like a dream partner. And for someone who has experienced abusive, avoidant, or narcissistic partners, doing a total 180 and experiencing a relationship with an anxious preoccupied probably sounds like the ultimate breath of fresh air. But let's not forget, all attachments have their superpowers along with their downsides. Anxious preoccupieds are our insecures that completely self abandon their own wants and needs in order to try their absolute best to never, ever experience the abandonment of their partner. This is due to the emotional intermittent reinforcement they experienced in childhood from their parents. One minute, their parents were there, meeting their emotional and physical needs. The next, they weren't. Since they never knew if their needs were going to be met, they formed an abandonment wound in their subconscious. And this then goes on to dictate how they show up in their romantic relationships. The intermittent reinforcement created an addiction to love. So the AP's biggest needs are validation and reassurance, which results in a deep sense of codependency in their love life. And in all fairness, it will never be the anxious preoccupied that utters claims of not having the ability to change that I have beef with. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They would never even think, let alone say out loud to their partner, I am who I am. If you don't like it, then bye, Felicia. Because their number one goal is to literally hold on to the relationship they are currently in at the time with both hands and feet as tight as humanly possible so that they can avoid their fear of abandonment at all costs. But deep down, it's their self abandonment that slowly creates major dissatisfaction and eventual resentment within the relationship. That's definitely not a winning recipe for a healthy, happy love life. We're striving for long term success here, relationship goals, if you will. So, my APs that are listening need not band aid over your fears of abandonment by totally stuffing down your own needs. The anxiety that you feel when you're constantly focused on performing for love, it's actually having the opposite effect on your partner. Instead of pulling them closer by being whoever it is that you think they want you to be, they're more than likely actually losing respect for you, which then very often results in the very thing you are terrified of happening, them leaving you. You have to love yourself and respect yourself. You're modeling for others exactly how to treat you by the way that you treat yourself. Taking accountability for your anxious, preoccupied, insecure attachment looks like taking back your self worth by no longer abandoning yourself for the sake of desperately hoping that someone else will stick around. The right person for you is someone who doesn't demand that you shrink yourself in order to keep them. The right person for you is someone who loves and respects you and is looking for someone who treats themselves with that same level of self respect and love. No relationship, nobody that is worthy of you will ever make you feel like you're constantly auditioning for their validation. That's exhausting, and you're worth so much more. So let's take accountability for the ways in which you've been abandoning yourself and no longer settle for partners that allow you to treat yourself in that manner. The right person is out there, I promise. You've got this. Alrighty, let's move on to our dismissive avoidance. What I'm about to say is going to sound harsh, but it's just the cold hard facts. Dismissive avoidants are the least likely of the three insecure attachment styles to take accountability for the negative behaviors they display in their relationships. I am not saying this because I hate DAs. In fact, the inner pain that dismissive avoidants feel but likely refuse to admit to or talk about is so deep. It's actually unbearable to them, which truly breaks my heart for my DAs out there. Their attachment wounds of shame and defectiveness are the reasons why accountability is oftentimes such an impossible pill for DAs to swallow. I was told a number of times by a dismissive avoidant ex of mine things like, I just don't think I can give you what you want, and I'm not good enough for you. And these are things that DAs actually believe. The frustrating thing, though, is the things they claim they can't give are the foundations of a healthy relationship. I wasn't looking for anything outlandish. I just simply didn't know who he was at his core. And as a fearful avoidant, I crave that level of emotional intimacy. I wanted open, honest communication. I wanted us to be on the same page about our feelings and the future we each envisioned for our relationship. I wasn't needy. I wasn't clingy. I wasn't high maintenance. I just simply wanted to know him. And that is absolutely terrifying for a dismissive avoidant. Once the relationship moves from the honeymoon phase, where things are light, carefree, new, and exciting, to the next level where the stakes start to get higher. Their irrational fear that their partner will see right through them and discover they aren't good enough for them goes into autopilot. This is because in childhood, their feelings were either minimized, totally dismissed, punished, or ignored by their parents. So they were conditioned very early on to never allow themselves to truly be seen by those that love them. So they go on to have romantic relationships in adulthood where, typically at the 4 to 6 month mark, sometimes up to a year, depending on different factors in the relationship, their fears of being truly seen and known completely override their initial desire for love and intimacy. Their inner voice roasts them with, if they knew the real me, they'd realize I'm broken. Not only am I broken, I'm defective, which means there is no hope of me being fixed. So therefore, I truly can't ever be what they need me to be. So, looks like it's about that time for me to leave them before they realize I'm not good enough and leave me. It's really, really sad, you guys. They self reject as a way of avoiding rejection from their partner. This is why the majority of the lifelong bachelors and bachelorettes out there are dismissive avoidants, because they continue this pattern in every relationship they get into. I'm going to speak directly to the DAs that are listening. It doesn't have to be this way. I know you crave love and intimacy just like any other attachment out there. It just absolutely terrifies you. Your innate defense mechanism when any sort of conflict arises of claiming that you just can't give the other person what they need or be the partner that they deserve, most of the time, that's just not true. You 1000% have the ability to work through the feelings of anxiety and panic that hit your nervous system once you start to realize, oh crap, things are starting to get serious, and I'm feeling myself make up any and every excuse I can possibly think of as to why this relationship will never work. Instead of running from those feelings and distracting yourself with work or hobbies or your to do list or numbing out by doom scrolling on social media, allow yourself to sit in the uncomfortable and let your body fully process those feelings. The only way to the other side of healing is directly through it, not by avoiding your feelings, not by numbing out with different things like social media or other potential partners or hooking up with people or drinking or drugs. The only way is to deal with it directly head on. You may experience sensations in your body you've never felt before, like unexplainable tingling throughout every fiber of your being, or these weird watery things that well up in your eyes that are called tears. This is what processing your emotions feels like. Many of you have never felt such sensations because you've used every distraction possible as a way to Xanax your way out of actually feeling. You have to complete the emotional processing cycle, though. Otherwise, failed relationship after failed relationship will continue to happen, and those unprocessed emotions will continue to stack up one after another until usually a full blown midlife crisis occurs. I follow a guy named Taylor Money on social media. He's a healing dismissive avoidant that posts all sorts of content related to how he's working through his healing journey. If you're a dismissive avoidant and you want to change your destructive relationship patterns, give him a follow and check out his stuff. I think you'd get a lot out of watching a fellow DA working on earning his attachment security in real time. So, to my DAs out there, you have the power to change. You just have to take accountability, want change bad enough, and be willing to work through the discomfort of healing your insecure attachment. It is totally doable, though. Alrighty, for my fellow fearful avoidants out there, man, it's straight up exhausting being an FA sometimes. The constant tug of war we play in relationships, craving closeness 1 minute, pushing our partner away the next. Yeesh. We are the most complex of all the attachment styles, which isn't a flex, trust me. We operate along both ends of the attachment spectrum, so we have both anxious and avoidant tendencies, just depending on the situation and the relationship we're in at the time. We are known for our passion, which can be both a superpower and a downfall, again, just depending on the situation. Fearful avoidants are probably the most likely of the attachments to say something along the lines of, I am who I am, take it or leave it. Again, not coming at you guys in a judgmental way. I'm coming from a place of, I've been there, I've said that. And during those times I've made such claims, it was definitely the type of passion talking that isn't the good kind of passion. It's the combative, defensive, hot headed, all I see is red type of passion. This is a side of myself I'm not a fan of. And this is a side that I definitely made excuses for in the moment. Because just like the anxious preoccupied or the dismissive avoidant, us fearful avoidants also have the power and ability to change this type of behavior. Remember, fearful avoidants experienced trauma in their childhood, often big T trauma, which means a pivotal, life altering traumatic event or series of events took place. Because of this, the concepts of love and pain get fused together because our parent or parents that were responsible for that trauma became a source of both love and pain. This is what creates primary attachment wound for fearful avoidance, which is the fear of betrayal. We have an extremely hard time trusting others because we are deeply afraid of being betrayed by them. And this totally contradicts our biggest need in a relationship, which is to be deeply seen, heard, and understood. We crave connection, we crave intimacy, but are also absolutely terrified of letting someone get too close. Because once they cross that threshold, they have the ability to let us down in the most egregious ways possible. We also have a secondary attachment wound of unworthiness. This is because in childhood, the people that are supposed to love us the most and treat us the best are our parents. Once it's realized that the ones who are supposed to love us the most have the ability to also betray us, we feel unworthy. If you actually love me, you never would have betrayed me. So therefore, I must not actually be worthy of love. All of this is etched into our subconscious. We don't go strolling around consciously thinking these things. Us fearful avoidants also have what's called the negativity bias, which is basically the concept of always looking for the negative in our partner. We predict that they will betray us. Now, this could be something as serious as cheating or as small as saying you'll do the dishes and not following through on that. Our negativity bias causes us to constantly be on guard so that as soon as a betrayal takes place, we can say, see, I knew you couldn't be trusted. This is our subconscious defense mechanism. If we can predict betrayal before it happens, then when it actually does happen, we were already prepared for it and know how to respond accordingly. We also tend to think in black and white and totally overgeneralize things about our partners. I say all these super awesome qualities about fearful avoidance to help paint a better picture of what's going on in our nervous systems should we utter phrases in the heat of the moment like, I am the way that I am. If you can't handle it, then you know where the door is. That phrase is a defense mechanism to help protect us from our ultimate fear taking place, being betrayed. You can't potentially hurt us if you're no longer in our lives, right? But again, you guys, we don't have to live in constant self preservation mode, just waiting for the next person to come along and screw us over. That's exhausting. Healing our insecure FA ways is completely within our control. Do people have the ability to betray us? Yes, of course. That's the risk we take for love. But will everyone betray us? Of course not. Going from 0 to 100 when conflict arises and making astounding claims of, accept me for me, I am who I am, are not the way to handle your emotions. As I've been on my healing journey these last several months, I've noticed myself softening in a good way. That nuclear reactor that once lived inside my chest, just ready to go off should someone cross me, it's died down a lot. I'm able to think before I react. I'm able to slow down and reflect on how can I handle this situation better than how I've handled things before. Life is just way too short to be passionate in the bad way. And working on my attachment healing has helped me in this area immensely. Granted, I don't have a partner at the moment to practice this with, but I recognize myself reacting and responding to different scenarios in other areas of life in ways that are much more positive and productive than before I started this healing journey. Now, are there certain relationships where your partner is causing you to change for the worse? Absolutely. I'm not referring to relationships where manipulation tactics are being used to get you to change or to do things that you're not comfortable with. In that case, making the claim, I am who I am, take it or leave it, is totally an acceptable thing to say to your partner. Not only that, you should exit that type of relationship. What we're talking about here is bad behavior or negative patterns that you are guilty of in your relationship, and then making the excuse of that's just who you are and you can't change. Because you can, and you should, not only for the sake of your relationship, but for your own sense of self worth and happiness. Freeing ourselves from the chains of our insecure attachment is a feeling like no other, and we all deserve that level of freedom. We only get this one life, so why not right the wrongs from our past, take accountability for ourselves, and set out to make the most beautiful life possible? All right, you guys, that does it for today. If you know of anyone that could benefit from this episode, be a good friend and share it. Thank you so, so much for being a part of this healing journey with me, and I'll catch you back here in 2 weeks for our next episode. In the meantime, I hope you have an absolutely amazing next couple of weeks. Love you guys. Bye.